السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. حياكم الله. أهلا وسهلا. Welcome back to our Ramadan program, the last episode, our 10th and last episode for this year's Ramadan program, 1446, 2025. Alhamdulillah, we had some fantastic engagement, mashallah, tabarakallah, with questions and with people who joined the live stream. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us tawfiq. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from all of us our siyam and our qiyam and our tilat al-Quran and our engagement, our ibadah in general. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us a long life, a life where we can experience Ramadan many more times, many more months of Ramadan in the future, and may Allah give us sihha wa afiyah and well-being and also health to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the best possible way for many more years to come, and may Allah accept from everyone. Today's episode is a short episode, two short questions, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, and then we will have a short announcement as well. So the first question is about zakah. Can someone give zakah, their zakah, to a charity who is going to build a well for needy people in whatever country it is? Right. And the general ruling here is that no, it is not allowed to do that, generally speaking, and let me explain. So first of all, zakah is not sadaqah. There is a difference. Zakah is obligatory, whereas sadaqah is optional, generally speaking. Some say it is even wrong to say I am donating my zakah, because you're not. You're actually paying your zakah because this is a due. It is a due on your wealth, and the people that are mentioned in the Quran, the 8 categories that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned, they have a right upon that percentage of zakah in your wealth. So it is not even considered from a Sharia perspective your money anymore. You are paying. That is the point here. You're paying your due. And this is a very important point. Now, when it comes to the categories that Allah mentioned, some say there's a priority in terms of how Allah mentioned them in the Quran. Some say there is no direct priority, but the point is that many people, and rightly so, in my personal opinion, prefer to give their zakah to the poor and needy at this point when we have thousands, millions of poor and needy people who are quite literally in many cases dying because of hunger, because of thirst. So we are trying to prefer or prioritize them at this point in terms of our zakah. Long debate. I don't want to go much deeper in that sense, but generally speaking, we should be able, I mean, there are fatwas that can we build schools with our zakah, and generally I don't want to go into too much into details, but my personal opinion, we should be able to fund our schools and our essential, our masajid, with our sadaqat, not with our due zakah. Let's whole new topic, a whole different topic. Let's give zakah to be on the safe side, generally speaking, to the allocated categories that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned in the Quran and prioritize there directly. Now, when it comes to the needy, the poor needy, some say, well, I'm building a water well, for them. That is not for me, and it's not for it is for the poor. In the end of the day, there is a slight problem. The thinking is right, but there is a slight problem in that zakah, the asl, the norm is that zakah should be given to the needy, the poor and needy, directly, and let them decide what they want to do with that. So the asl, the norm, the normative, the position, the starting point, really, the rule here is you should be giving that in cash to the poor and needy and let them decide whatever they want to do with it. That's how it should. This is the original form of giving zakah, right? because you don't know and you don't want to make that decision. You may build a well for them, but there is a well maybe, a few couple of 100 meters down the road, not convenient, but on the other side, they're dying from hunger, or they need to pay the rent, or whatever. And you now coming and saying, no, I am going to build a well, and I'm going to give the zakah that is actually your money. It is due, it's your money. You have a right to that money, but I'm going to decide what you do with this money, and that is not allowed. So the asl is, the most pure form of giving zakah, barakallahu fikum, is that you basically spend that money, not spend, pay that money, that zakah, to the poor people directly, give it to them, let them deal with it. Now, are there some exceptions to this rule? Yes, there are some exceptions, especially when we speak about the categories of the poor and the people, and then later on, especially in those later categories, there are fewer or many more exceptions rather. But what gives us the permission to sway from the asl, from the original position, from the default position to an exception? And how can we do that? The only way to do that is to involve ulama, to involve learned people, so they can actually check. They can actually check, is it one of those circumstances where this would be allowed? There are sometimes certain areas in the world you cannot reach with cash. You have to do it otherwise. There are sometimes people who don't know how to deal, they don't have the financial literacy, so they don't know how to deal with the money. And if you give them cash, they will just spend it on essentially nonsense or things that are not essential. And then day after tomorrow, again, they're poor. So there are certain situations where if the circumstances are given, the conditions are met, a body of, and it's always good to have a body, not just the one learned person, but a body, a shura of learned people, of people who have studied this area of fiqh and have a sufficient knowledge to make a decision to control, or not control, but check all the conditions. If they check it, if they make it, then bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, there are certain situations where even a well would be permissible under certain situations, or in certain if certain conditions are met. I hope that makes sense, which gives us really one kind of side note here. Let's try to involve our ulama, and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, there are more and more learned people who have spent sometimes decades at the feet of the scholars, learned those intrinsic, detailed masail, rulings on zakah, on all aspects of fiqh really. Let's get them involved, especially if they are already seasoned. So I'm not asking for someone who comes back from from Azhar or from Al Medina or from other universities, Deoband or so. I'm not asking, they are young lads and have just finished and got a BA or whatever, have a alim course, a mufti course, whatever. I'm not asking for them to be, installed as mufti par excellence, or they join the big shura. No. They come back, they need a little bit of experience, and I always say that to many of our students of knowledge when they come back, although they have a title of sheikh or mufti or whatever, officially speaking, do you get some experience on the ground? Do you get with the seasoned ulama, with the imams, get involved in the da'wah, in tarbiyah, and so on and so forth? But those who have gone through this classical, theoretical kind of pathway of learning knowledge, and then also have the practical aspect, and they reach, I don't know, 40 years, 50 years of age. And alhamdulillah, there are more and more in the English speaking world, in the West in general, in French speaking, German speaking. Alhamdulillah, let's get them involved. Let's have them in our shura. Let's have them in our charities, shura body, a council of scholars. Let's get them involved in our schools. Let's get them involved in business, in every aspect of life, to get not to get the blessing or anything like that. That's not what we need. We need here we need to make sure that it is halal, it is conforming with the rules of fiqh, generally speaking. And for that, we should get them involved. I hope that makes sense. Bidnillahi ta'ala. Next question is about Eid. When is Eid? And subhanallah, at the time of recording, we still have 27 nights ahead of us, and then 28 and then 29th night. So there's still odd nights. There's still a couple of nights where Laylatul Qadr is possible, and we're already starting with the big debate. When is Eid? And we are starting to see some debates and heated discussions and whatnot, and it really, really misses the point. Now, I can say for definite, there is no difference of opinion that Eid is on the 1st of Shawwal. And that is clear. The question is, however, when is the 1st of Shawwal? And I don't want to go into the details here. Barakallahu feekum. For those who are interested, you can go back, episode 1 or 2. We talked about the beginning of Ramadan and, the different opinions about how to decide about that. But in short, I do really believe that within the next maybe decade, with a little bit of political will and a little bit of unity, bi'iznillahi ta'ala, my hope and my dua is that this discussion will end once and forever. And it will not be ending with one party or one opinion winning over the other. Is it local? Is it global? Is it that? People will still be allowed to do whatever they want. But most Muslims, bi'iznillahi ta'ala, within the next decade or so, will start, this is my dua, we'll start Ramadan together, have Eid together, inshallah, and it will all boil down to the fact that we will probably all be calculating our months, our starting points for Eid, for Ramadan, and although classical scholars in fiqh have, most of the scholars have clear opinion that it should not be calculated, generally speaking. I do believe that we will move into that direction of calculating, and this is the point now, we will then use modern, very sophisticated telescopes up and down this country and many other countries and in the West, and hopefully in the west coast of Africa and many other countries, where we will just confirm. And if it's not possible in one country, then it will be possible in another country. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, we will just confirm what calculations have already predicted. And the telescopes are so advanced today that you can actually, if you use CCD telescopes nowadays, and there's a whole debate whether we are allowed to use them, but you can blend out the, make the live transmission, the picture of the observations of the hilal. You can make it live. It is digital though. You can blend out the light. The telescope or the computer that is connected to makes several dozens or hundreds of pictures every second. I don't know exactly how it works, so the technical, but you can literally see the hilal even before Maghrib. You can follow it with the computer, and it is all automatically. It follows the telescope, just moves around because it's connected to the computer, and so there will be a question about how halal these are and how much are we allowed to use them. But the point is that we will have advanced technology to the point that we will, if physically the hilal is there, even for a couple of seconds or minutes, we will be able to see it with those sophisticated telescopes, and we'll probably move into that direction. And my hope is that there will be sufficient political will and also community push, that we will be united, that we will actually see Ramadan together and start Ramadan together and eat together. And whoever then wants to stick to no, it has to be local and has to be seen by the eye, not using anything, no telescopes, no binoculars, not even glasses, because that's the point here. Then Bismillah, no problem, inshallah. No hatred in our hearts and no hatred from anyone. Until that point, however, two things I do recommend. Stick to your local community, stick to your local masajid, where you take your prayer timetable from. Stick with them, start your Eid with them, start your Ramadan with them, make it a communal thing. The decision is not even yours here. Just stick with the community leaders and the imams that you usually trust with your with your Islamic questions, and celebrate Eid with the community. Start with them, end with them, start your Eid with them, bidnillahi ta'ala. The bigger, and that's the second thing that I want to mention, and hopefully the last matter in this series is, let's try. Instead of debating and having heated discussions about these reoccurring matters about Eid and whatnot, let's try to finish Ramadan on a high. And it is the sunnah to generally finish our ibadah with istighfar, generally speaking, because there is deficiency, there's lack of focus, there's lack of khushu', there's lack of, sometimes even rulings of fiqh have maybe been ignored, or anyway, there are deficiencies in our sawm, in our qiyam, in our... No one can claim that, he or she was there for 30 days and we did our best and every second was used in the most, in the most productive of ways, and there was khushu' tam and there was ikhlas at every point. And no, everyone needs to acknowledge that there are deficiencies, and that is why many scholars do recommend that at the end of... Generally in ibadah, you can see that in the Quran, you can see that in the Sunnah, that at the end of the ibadah you do istighfar, because to sort of plug those holes, these deficiencies, to sort of try to appeal to the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us for our shortcomings. You can see that when you do salah, especially fard salah, when you give salam, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, you say astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah 3 times. This is the sunnah, and this is also the sunnah for many other ibadat. So I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts our ibadah, our qiyam, our siyam, our tilatul Quran, our dhikr, our ad'iyah, our ibadah generally, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives our shortcomings during this month of Ramadan and during our ibadah, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helps us to transform and be transformative in our in our attitudes, in our behavior, in our actions, and to be better Muslims after Ramadan than we were before Ramadan, to take some of that momentum with us, some of the qiyam, some of the Quran, some of the fasting, some of the ibadah, some of the ruhaniyat, some of the spiritual aspects of Ramadan. We'll take that with us after Ramadan, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. This is it for this Ramadan in terms of our program. At the end, a short announcement. There are many projects that the Apex Trust in Ilford, in the east of London in the UK, is organizing. Many clubs that are run locally. We are also planning, obviously we have our primary school that has been running for 20 years. We have now our secondary schools, one for boys and one for girls. All the information, I'll put them in the link. You can find them on our websites. We have a lot of clubs that are running as well outside of the normal school hours. Many of them are public as well. We are planning to do things online as well. And we do have an active fundraiser as well for our Apex Waqf, a fund that we have, an endowment rather, that we have started some years ago, and we are now actively promoting so that we can fund. Some of it will go into endowment projects that will fund our projects for years to come, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, and some of it will be channeled directly into bursaries and scholarships for our students. So there is khair upon khair in the Apex Waqf. May Allah subhanahu grant us barakah and ikhlas, and I encourage everyone to consider a donation for the Apex Waqf as well, for this very special endowment. I'm a strong believer that we need to make our education and our projects in general sustainable, and think about a sustainable future and be able to fund them ourselves, the community, for the generations to come, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. I hope that makes sense. All the information in the description below, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. I hope to see you again at some point inshallah. هذا وصلى اللهم وسلم وزد وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.